The Batman is here, and oh my god, I was blown away. Okay, where do I begin? I guess I should begin and say that there are going to be spoilers. All right, let's get into this spoiler-filled review of the Batman. After so many years of waiting, the Batman is finally here, starring Robert Pattinson as the Caped Crusader, and wow. I was excited for this movie, and as we got closer, I got so excited, and I was a little worried my expectations were going to be a little too high. Went to see it this weekend. I've seen it twice now. I had to see it a second time. It was just that good. I thought this movie was brilliant. The noir film style. This is a crime movie, right? And this is Detective Batman. This movie is Detective Batman, and I absolutely love it. I don't think we've gotten a really good Batman as a detective type movie quite yet, and I thought this movie did a fantastic job. Batman is in year 2 of his crime fighting. He mentions that he's keeping diaries and journals because he's out every night and he needs to remember. And I love some of the tech we see in the movie. The camera, video recording, lenses or contacts, and just little stuff. We don't quite get an explanation of where that comes from. In the Dark Knight trilogy and Christopher Nolan's trilogy, it's all military grade weaponry and tactical armor and gear prototypes, right? That's where Batman gets them in that trilogy. Whereas this one, we don't know if he buys them. Does he steal them from criminals after he takes them down? Does he get them off the black market? Like, where does it come from? He seems to be very knowledgeable in this text, so part of that leads me to believe maybe he creates it. I don't know. Maybe that's something we will visit and explore in the future movies. But right from the get, this movie starts with a voiceover. Absolutely love it. He explains that he's in year 2 of his crime fighting in vigilante ways. We see the bat signal pretty early on, which I love the bat signal and how it's just, he explains how it just strikes fear into the hearts of these criminals because, criminals see that and, every one of them is thinking, could Batman be in that dark alley? Could he be right around the corner? Just the thought of Batman scaring the hell out of these criminals, it's fantastic, and I absolutely love it. And the intro, Batman's intro, it's so epic. There's this, I don't know, clown gang. I don't know. They have this just this black and white, very Joker-esque makeup, in my opinion, or I don't know if they're inspired by the Joker. We'll get into a little of that in a minute, but they seem to be very Joker inspired. And one of them, he only has face paint on half his face. That was very reminded me at least of Two-Face. So maybe that was a nice nod there. The leader of the gang looked like he kind of had the smile. So I don't know. Take that for what it is. Nice nods, nice Easter eggs. But we get the introduction of Batman with this group of criminals, and you just hear this thudding, right? This thudding. And his footsteps, Batman's footsteps. Oh, what an intro. I absolutely adored it. I loved it so much. And we get that throughout the whole movie, which I thought was fantastic. We get that thudding, and it's not as loud as the intro, obviously, but we get that thudding every time he's walking, every time he's approaching or coming out of the shadows. The voiceover right before this he says, "I am the shadows."
I am the shadows.
This dude, this take on Batman, I absolutely loved it. But I also do love how he's not really like this legendary figure quite yet. Obviously he is striking fear into the hearts of these criminals, but he's not this legendary, mythical man. He's not without his flaws in this movie. And I love that. They explicitly state year 2, or it's been 2 years, he's not going to be perfect. There's going to be flaws in that character. He's still learning, If this film franchise goes on to be this big thing, which I really, really hope it does, I hope we get 6, 7 Batman films with Robert Pattinson. By film 4 or 5, he's starting to become that legendary Batman we know and love because he's, learned along the way. He's become wise. I love the simplistic, heavy, ominous, theme that he has every time it plays. And it plays actually a lot throughout the movie in so many different tones and so many different variations and keys and octaves and stuff. But it's there throughout the whole movie, and I absolutely love it, signaling that Batman is there, waiting. One thing I did love about this movie as well was the eye makeup. We finally got to see the eye makeup, And it's no secret Batman has to wear black eye makeup or around the eyes to conceal or make himself more menacing and perhaps hide his identity a little more than it already is under the cowl. But I like that we got to see him with the cowl off, with the makeup, donning the eye makeup and the sweaty long hair that he's rocking. And I absolutely loved that version of Bruce Wayne, and just to see that side, like right after he gets back from his long night of crime fighting, we get to see just that tired, broken, worn out mess of a man and vigilante and Bruce Wayne and Batman. I absolutely love that. Bruce Wayne's the character of Bruce Wayne I didn't feel like had a lot of screen time, but I felt it was when he did have screen time, it was used effectively and appropriately. The way Robert Pattinson played the role of Bruce Wayne, I thought was brilliant. He's not this playboy running around with this persona, this facade. He is this broken person. He's a recluse. He's very introverted. No one sees him. No one hears from him. And I absolutely love that. I thought it was very realistic. If a young boy lost his parents the way Bruce Wayne did, it's more likely that he is what is portrayed in this movie than what is portrayed in the others. I just thought it was very grounded again, a very closer to reality than anything we've really ever gotten. I thought Nolan's trilogy was the closest we've ever gotten to like Batman in reality. This is closer, in my opinion. The way Robert Pattinson like tells stories with his eyes in this movie, we see the little nods. When when he's talking to Alfred and he sees the daylight, he just does this thing with his eyes, like, "Ooh, that's bright." With the light coming in through the window. It was a little things. We see the pain, the anguish in his eyes as Bruce Wayne, and I thought Robert Pattinson did a wonderful job at conveying so much emotion through his eyes when he had the cowl on with that black eye makeup. I am so impressed with Robert Pattinson's take on Batman and Bruce Wayne and this character in general. Can't speak highly enough of it. I know most people agree, some people disagree, and that's okay. I absolutely loved it. Some of the Easter eggs I absolutely loved in this movie. Probably my favorite was towards the end when they realize Falcone is the rat. He's the guy. Selina Kyle goes to go catch him, and Batman has to go after her, go catch Falcone, however you want to say it. He rappels down the building. He like rappels down, like hooks himself to the thing, and then like runs down the building. Absolutely love that Easter egg because I can't imagine that's not a nod to the 1966 Batman series with Burt Ward and Adam West. Classic series. If you haven't watched it, please go watch it. It's probably one of my favorite series. It's just so corny and cheesy and it's amazing. But in that series, it's the classic Batman and Robin walking up the side of the building, very cheesy, very corny, very 60s. And I can't imagine that wasn't a nod to that. That was probably one of my favorite parts of the movie, to be completely honest with you. As far as Batman's voice, I thought Robert Pattinson did a wonderful job at that as well. It's probably the closest to Christian Bale, in my opinion. I thought it was a little similar to that, but it was still his own. If I heard both of them, I think I could be able to distinguish them. And I thought, the big joke with Christian Bale's was it's too gravelly or too forced, whereas I felt Robert Pattinson felt very natural. It didn't feel out of place. It didn't feel like, oh, why is he doing that with his voice? It felt very natural to me, and I really liked that. I thought the casting was fantastic. People are talking about Zoe Kravitz stealing the show and Paul Dano stealing the show. Robert Pattinson, first off, was great. I've talked about that enough in this video. Paul Dano was amazing as the Riddler. And John Turturro, like, as Carmine Falcone, he was so good. His rendition of this character and this villain, stunning. Absolutely stunning. He was intimidating. I thought he was a really believable villain for this movie and for this really grounded movie. And yeah, he was intimidating. Like I could feel, I would be scared of this man, if I knew he was running this city and was some mob boss. But I think personally, Colin Farrell, there were jokes, why do we cast Colin Farrell as the Penguin? But like, wow. It's like really speechless. You couldn't recognize him. If you could see Colin Farrell under that makeup, bravo to you. I knew it was Colin Farrell, and I kept trying to find Colin Farrell, and I couldn't. Stunning. I cannot wait to get more of him in the Penguin HBO series. I do believe that is coming out this year or next year on HBO Max. So happy we get to dive into that character a little more, get some more time to flesh that out. And now he's running the show as of right now, it seems like. And I'm going to guess he's going to be the guy running the show, which if you've watched the Gotham series, which I think you should, it's a great series. We could see the Penguin run Gotham there for a short time, and I thought that was great. So I assume we'll get some good Colin Farrell action, but he was amazing, so good, just phenomenal. So there's a scene in the movie where Batman looks like he's down and out. I don't know if he was dying. That was a little unclear. Batman pulls this like vial out, has some hole in his suit so he can stab himself for it if he needs to. Some sort of adrenaline, right? Stabs himself, boom, gets up, starts beating up the bad guy, the Riddler follower, and starts going to town on this guy, just angry, right? I think we were led to believe, or supposed to believe, that was like an adrenaline shot or adrenaline serum or something, and just in case a situation like this arose. But I think this might be similar to the serum that like Bane uses. And a few reasons I believe that is because when he boosts himself, like he gets up and he just looks so strong and powerful, and he's just, wailing on the guy, but he's got this like rush of anger and aggression, and it was really out of character for that moment. And what I'm thinking is either this is the serum that Bane will later use, or maybe he's already encountered Bane. I think this is the serum will be revisited later, and maybe that's where Bane will come from. Where the serum comes from, I'm sure we will find out, but I just don't think that was adrenaline. I think that serum will play a bigger part later. Also, I did notice on my second viewing of the movie is that there's graffiti on one of the buildings, and it's like a green water droplet, and it's got a face, and it's got the spray painted the big like no sign around it. So maybe this serum has hit the streets before and it's been a problem, and Batman put a stop to it, but kept it for himself, or kept some for himself, and maybe gets back out there. I think there's just little hidden Easter eggs I think that are there to set up future movies. And speaking of setting up future movies, let's get into the big twist of the movie. I don't even want to say twist, the big reveal, the big surprise. All right. The Joker has been introduced to this Batman franchise, this Batman universe that Matt Reeves is building. I was very, very surprised to see this introduction or this tease, because I wholeheartedly, completely, in fact, thought they would purposely avoid the Joker or any references or anything like that, especially with, Batman being so new to crime fighting and this vigilantism. So I'm surprised we got this early on. He is right next to the Riddler in Arkham, which I love that we saw a little more Arkham. But he's right next to the Riddler, and the Joker actually is the one that says the famous Riddler line, "Riddle me this," which I thought was a nice little touch. But Barry Keoghan, something like that, was in this movie. He's actually credited as unnamed Arkham inmate. So Matt Reeves, I believe, has gone on to since say that was the Joker. So that's interesting, but we get the laugh. I think Barry Keoghan will be a wonderful Joker. He had that, like, I won't say the voice down, but like he has a very unique take on it. I thought it was intimidating. It was creepy, and that laugh at the end, I was very, very impressed with that laugh. There was one scene Matt Reeves did describe that was cut from the movie, and I do believe this was actually filmed for the movie. Basically, Matt explains that there's a scene where Batman goes to Arkham to get a better understanding of the Riddler, because he's really bothered that the Riddler is reaching out to Batman and contacting Batman and trying to make him part of this plot or whatever's going on. So he goes to Arkham and goes to this unnamed inmate, which would be Barry Keoghan, and he said, and when he visits him, Barry Keoghan's character actually says, and I think this line is completely wonderful. He says, "It's almost our anniversary, isn't it?" I love that line. First off, I think that line is fantastic. It's very creepy. It lends to so much backstory there. Like clearly, Batman put this person in. And it was some kind of anniversary, but I love the like use of the word anniversary for some reason. I think that just has like holds so much weight for some reason in this context. And Matt Reeves basically explains, you realize that they have a relationship, that this guy did something. Batman put him into Arkham, and Batman tells the Joker, and this is Matt Reeves talking, so clearly this is the Joker. Batman tells the Joker he wants to know how the Riddler thinks, and Barry Keegan's character, or Barry Keegan's Joker, I guess we could say at this point, basically replies with, "What do you mean? What do you mean you want to know how he thinks? He thinks like you. You're the same person. You think the same." Because in this movie, the comparisons between Batman and the Riddler they're just there. There's just little nuances that show their differences, but other than that, they're almost the same person. And Paul Dano's character explains that in the interrogation or in the scene where they talk. And I just love how they were almost on the same mission, but went about it in different ways. And there's just that fine line between criminal and vigilante and criminal and hero, and it's such a gray area, and I absolutely loved it. But in this scene, he says, they think the same, and that it's really just the Joker getting into Batman's head, and Batman's just trying to like just violently resist this idea. And it was just the scene was really supposed to unsettle Batman and kind of throw him off even more than he already was. And I see why that scene was cut, after watching the film. It would have felt redundant to have that scene and the Riddler Batman scene, because they basically are saying the same thing almost, kind of, with how they think the same and how similar they are. So I see why it doesn't belong, but this scene just sounds so beautiful and so amazing, and I hope we get it as a deleted scene or something, because I need it in my life. My theory. This is my hot take on the Batman. I don't even want to say it's a hot take. It's my hot theory. Let's say that. This is my theory on this Batman franchise and the Joker and the Riddler and Batman and all of it. Okay, this is my theory. It's probably wrong, but I'm gonna stick with it right now because it just sounds so out there that if it happens, it's gonna be freaking awesome. So Barry Keegan's playing the Joker. Cool. As far as we know, he's playing the Joker right now. I thought Paul Dano was amazing as the Riddler. Fantastic. I love this take on the Riddler. He's crazy. He's over the top, but he's still like we've talked about. He's grounded. He's grounded in reality. I've heard some people say, and I agree, I think Paul Dano would have been an amazing Joker. Amazing Joker. He would have been cool. Fantastic Riddler, and I love this take on him. So happy. He's looks like he's going to be returning, probably teaming up with the Joker in the next one or in the future, and awesome. Can't wait. But I noticed something on my second viewing. When the Joker tells Riddler the riddle, they say, "Oh, it's a friend." They both start laughing. Cool. We get the famous Joker laugh. Hee 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 ha ha ha, right? Very intimidating, very creepy. On my second viewing, I noticed that we hear Paul Dano's character laughing, or we hear Paul Dano laughing as well in this scene, underneath or right behind Barry Keegan's laugh. And it's really just as creepy. And you could almost argue it's more Joker-esque in the way he kind of laughs or the way it sounds. Obviously, I guess that's all interpretation. But it's Jokerish nonetheless. And I'm almost wondering, what if we get a twist where Paul Dano's Edward Nashton, what if he becomes the Joker in the future? Maybe this unnamed Arkham inmate character that Barry Keegan plays is the Joker. Maybe he is the Joker. But maybe he influences another Joker or the next Joker. I'm thinking maybe they kind of break out together, and Barry Keegan is this Joker, and maybe he's not the Joker we know and love, or this classic Joker, but he's just this crazy guy. Maybe he wears the makeup, crazy hair, whatever. Something happens to him, is defeated by Batman, and then maybe Paul Dano's Riddler, becomes the classic Joker we know. If that all makes sense. I think that all makes sense, the way I said that. I don't think it's out of the question to say we can have multiple Jokers in this universe. There's the comic series, The Three Jokers, that is out. In the Gotham series, which I mentioned before, there's two or three iterations of the Joker in that series alone. So who's to say that we can't do it in this film franchise that might be 1 to 7 movies, however many movies they decide to make. These movies could span over the Dark Knight trilogy. I think spanned over like 6, 7 years in 3 movies. Why can't we have 6 of these movies and span over 15, 20 years? That gives us time that we could have 2 or 3 Jokers. So I don't think it's very far fetched to think Paul Dano is the Riddler, yes, but maybe he is inspired by Barry Keoghan's Joker to become, the classic Joker that we know and love. Maybe the one donning the purple suit and the makeup, whereas Barry Keoghan's could just be the crazy, insane Joker, and maybe he's the one that will wear the face. That's nuts. That's kind of the vibe I got from the Barry Keoghan portrayal of just the little tidbit we got. I almost think it'd be really, really cool and really ballsy, really, if they decided to do more than one iteration of the Joker. And maybe that's a 2 or 3 movie saga or story that builds out and plays out. I think that would be really amazing. As far as ratings go, I would give this movie a 9.8, 9.9. I thought it was amazing. I love the setting. I love the story. I love the characters, the cast. The movie was long. I get it. I didn't mind. I spent 6 hours of my weekend this weekend watching the Batman movie because I adored it and loved it that much. I can't wait for the sequel. If there was a sequel tomorrow, I would go out and see it. I would be there. I'd be right there. I think Robert Pattinson might be my favorite Batman. I grew up with Christian Bale as my Batman, just with my age. I've loved all the Batmans. Adam West has always been one of my favorites just because I love that series so much. But I think Robert Pattinson might be my favorite Batman now. And I think The Dark Knight is probably one of the best movies in cinematic history, with Heath Ledger and Christian Bale and everyone in that movie. And just, the movie on its own is just so classic and it stands alone. You don't need the first one. You don't need the next one after that. It's almost a perfect movie. But I think this might be the best Batman movie we've ever gotten. I've heard people talk about flaws in this movie and flaws as the Batman character, but I think for the story they told and the time that they set this movie where this movie takes place, I think it's perfect. I think it's story building, I think it's character building, and I think it's world building. I absolutely love this movie. I can't wait for the sequel personally. And I can't wait to see more Robert Pattinson as Batman, Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought of the movie as well. Would you see it again? Do you want a sequel? What do you want to see happen in the sequel? I'm gonna go through the comments. We'll talk about them on next week's show, and just to spark some debate. It'll be fun. Until next time, guys. May the force be with you, and just remember, we are vengeance. See you guys.